Christine Benedict is coming up to announce our next speaker. Wow, haven't the speakers been absolutely amazing today? Oh my God. You had no idea you were going to get so much information today. So, okay, Chris, you're up.
Thanks, Tricia. Well, our next speaker probably doesn't need much of an introduction. John McLaughlin. John McLaughlin has worked professionally as a strategic consultant and pollster for over 40 years. Now, he doesn't look like he's been working 40 years, right? During this time, he has earned a reputation for helping some of America's most successful corporations and winning some of the toughest elections in the nation. Since 2016, John has worked as an advisor, pollster for President Trump and his political clients. Yeah. His political clients have included presidential candidates Steve Forbes, Fred Thompson, and California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Former Florida President Jeb Bush and Georgia Governor Nathan Deal, and 22 of others, U.S. senators and 16 Republicans in Congress. So, without further ado, if you want to complete his bio, it is in our package, and I'm going to introduce John.
Thank you very much. It's a good time to be here because we're up in the polls. But you know what's going to shock them? What will shock them is not when Donald Trump wins re-election, in spite of the fact that Alvin Bragg and Colangelo and Biden want to put him in jail and make him the next Nelson Mandela of America. It'll shock them when we win New York State. And by the way, there's a raging debate going on inside the Trump campaign, and it's one that Donald Trump will win because he wants to win New York. And he's talking about having a rally at the Garden, in the Bronx, maybe Nassau County, maybe Suffolk. Maybe we'll get him upstate too. But he's in New York, even though he's in Florida now. I can't say anything that would jeopardize his tax status. But he's born and bred in New York, so he's a New Yorker. So we're going to go through some slides, and I'll just go through, I guess, and by the way, there's a lot of friends in this audience because there's people that I've worked for in the state, across the state. And one of the things that my brother Jim and I, we're both New Yorkers. Raised, when I was a kid, I was in the Bronx, so you could tell from my southern accent, South Bronx. But then my parents moved to the suburbs, and we were raised in Rockland County. So there's we have a lot of scars from winning races. And I always tell people that Republicans who can win in New York State, I don't know how they lose in South Dakota. There's more Republicans than Democrats. The same thing in Nebraska. Hi, Allison, I see you there. It's like, if you can win in New York State, you can win anywhere in the country. So the best campaigners come out of New York State, and the best Republican women come out of New York State. See, I've learned to pander well. But we'll go through some of these national slides, and then we'll talk about it, and then I can take some questions. I mean, Tom Dunham did a great job before me, and you've had some great speakers today, but we'll go through what the status of things are today. So Bonnie, if you go to slide 2, this is the direction of the United States right now, and it's 66% of all voters say we're on the wrong track, and you only have 26% saying right direction. This is 1,000 likely voters. And you notice, like, the last time it was kind of close was when we were coming out of COVID. But it goes all the way back to 14, and that was the Obama years, and that's how Trump got elected in the first place. Because when, in 2016, he was like running for the nomination, and he wasn't in first place, and he said, what do I need to do? And I said, 90% of the Republicans don't like Obama and don't like Hillary. Just wake up every day and attack Obama and Hillary. And he says, I could do that. And to which I said, you got to realize it's not about you. And then I got a death stare. But it worked. But you see, things haven't gone better under Joe Biden. And when you look at the next slide, you can see here, this is the generic ballot for Congress. We've really been in partisan parity for Congress ever since we took the majority going back to '94. The two sides can't get away from each other. And there's little spikes like 2014, the Tea Party date, and right now we're up 47-43 because ironically the generic vote for Congress parallels how Trump's doing for president. So you'll see that Trump's ahead 49-45, so this is up 4. So this was done April 16th. We did these national, and we published it every month. It's on our website, McLaughlinOnline.com. But you can see that spread there in the last, when we were ahead in the last time for Congress. So we won the national vote for Congress, but without New York, there would have not been a Republican House majority in 2022. I mean, you all actually, the national Republicans, it's too hard to win in New York. New York City's too expensive. Upstate's too remote. If we had not won those seats for Brandon Williams, for Mike Lawler, for Anthony D'Esposito and Molinaro, and if we had not won these new seats, if we hadn't won the seats in New York, there would not be a Republican majority. Now they're trying to get rid of it, they're trying to work on it, but that's why you want to send Allison back there and others for Congress. But, and Lee Zeldin really ran a great race with Allison. They ran a great race, and we almost pulled it off, but without New York State, there wouldn't be a Republican majority. And you know what? When Donald Trump wins in November, we're going to have a Republican House majority and a Republican Senate majority, and that will be... Let's go to the next slide. This is my favorite slide. This is Joe Biden's job approval. Now, we have it, some polls have him at 60 or worse. We have him at 56 because we modeled it after the 2020 election. So in this survey, we actually take a pessimistic view of what the model's going to be like. It's based on the 160 million people that came out, so there's 4 points more Biden voters than Trump voters. But Biden has a 56 disapprove and a 42 approve. We're seeing if he can work it lower. And you know what? Back in September 21, the lines crossed for Biden. He went from positive job approval to a negative job approval. You know what that was? Afghanistan. The one thing that American presidents are not supposed to do is surrender. And by the way, even as we speak today, he's trying to surrender Israel. But fortunately, I have a client that I polled for over there, and Allison will like this story because Bibi, I polled from 03 through October of 22, and I usually stay on election night with him because it's never the same as ours. But I had to go over there in May, and he says, I go over there, and he's in the opposition. And I say, when's your election? He says, November 1st. And knowing that ours was November 7th, I said, you were really feeling left out, weren't you? So from Lee's campaign to Bibi's campaign, I had to commute. I had to go over to Israel once in May, June, July, August, twice in September, twice in October. And he wanted me to stay in October. And I said, the polls haven't changed. You're going to win. You're going to get 64 out of the 120 seats. You're going to be the next prime minister. But there's a nice Jewish young man in New York that I want to elect governor. So I got to go back and try to help him. He wanted. I'm lucky he didn't keep me. But pray for Israel, pray for Bibi, because Bibi, the last thing I heard as I walked in here was that Hamas was going to accept a ceasefire as they were moving into Gaza, but Bibi told them it wasn't good enough because I don't think they were returning the hostages. So, and Joe Biden is that 56 disapproval. That could get worse, but it deserves to get worse because he's making things worse. So you can't, the people of the world, I was in Europe last week, and there's a lot of leaders around the world can't wait till Donald Trump beats Joe Biden. Next slide. Kamala Harris. You know what that is? That's impeachment insurance. As long as she's the vice president, we're not going to impeach this guy. So 40 approved, 51 unfavorable. So 40 favorable. Next slide. This is the top issue in the country. That blue line is economic issues. The number one single most important issue is inflation at 23%. And those are the economic issues combined. And then you've got, see that green line going up? That's security issues. The 25% are social issues like health, education, climate, et cetera. And abortion is included in that. But the 23%, notice that's the way that's gone up, that's immigration and crime moving up. Those are security issues. So now, part of the reason that Trump's ahead is they're having trouble that we're getting women voters again. And it's like, well, those are safety moms. They really care that there's illegal immigrants in their neighborhoods creating crime, and they really care that you can't go on the subways, that you can't go out. There's women in the suburbs won't let their families go into the city, and now you can't even send your kid to college because you never know what terrorist is going to be on campus. So that's, you know, that's what's going on. By the way, the Democrats keep on arguing about these issues. You run on inflation, you run on security, very likely you're going to win, because that's what 2/3 of the voters care about. And it's different by certain areas and districts, but that's the national outlook. Next slide. So this is whether they think the economy is getting worse or better. 31% say better, 64% say worse. And they're telling us inflation's going down. Inflation's not going down. You know, and people say to me, well, what about Biden getting better in the polls? I said, not after a voter goes to the supermarket and pays for gas. So, or your utility bills? I mean, rents and mortgages? Holy cow. I mean, it's like, but that's what the big issues are right now. Next slide. 86%. That's the number of voters in the country said they've been negatively impacted by inflation. And 48% said they've been so negatively impacted they're having trouble meeting basic necessities, affording basic necessities. This is America, and people are having a hard time, and there's no empathy from the White House. If anything, I mean, Janet Yellen, I mean, she was talking about, giving some speech about threats to democracy. The threat to democracy is when you go try to buy something. Your standard of living's declining. So anyway, we can't talk about this issue enough. Next slide. And by the way, taxes, particularly in New York State, very good metaphor for inflation. Taxes don't go down in this state. So you know, but that's what that is. In this slide, this is the blue line is Biden, the red line is Trump. We never won the national popular vote in 2016. We lost by 3, but it was always an electoral vote play. And there was one point, 2 days before Christmas in 2016, I get a phone call from President Trump. There's no press here, right? Like, 2 days before Christmas, I get a phone call from President Trump. My wife and I were just out with a nun that taught at our high school, getting ready for Christmas, and it's lighting up. The phone lights up, and the person says, "President-elect Trump would like to speak with you." And I started stuttering because I said, "Now I got to call you Mr. President." And he says, "I just want to say thank you for what you did and all that." And I said, "Well, I thought you could win, but." It was a close election, and he says, no, it was a huge one. I said, no, we won by 78,000 votes, 44,000 in Pennsylvania, 22,000 in Wisconsin, 10,000 in Michigan. And that was out of 139 million votes. And he says, yeah, but it was a big electoral victory. I said, no, Obama had more. And he said, so I hear the silence on the phone. And I said to him, no, Mr. President, it was a huge victory, that it was a historic victory. No one had ever beaten the Republican establishment before, and then went on and beat the Washington establishment in the history of the country. Maybe Andrew Jackson. And he's like, yeah, you're right, it is historic. It's like, good. So first time I go to the Oval Office, I saw Tom Homan back there, but you go to the Oval, first time I went to the Oval Office, there was this picture of Andrew Jackson over the desk. And I turned to somebody I was with and I said, thank God I didn't tell him he won 2 duels. But we're ahead now in the popular vote. We never saw this before. This means it's an electoral landslide. And notice where it changed. in that September 21? Afghanistan. The wild card for the fall election is what happens with security. What happens? We've got all these illegal immigrants in the country. You got terrorists coming into the country. You got Chinese, Venezuelans. You got people coming in from countries who don't like us. And now he wants to take in Hamas from Gaza. I mean, it's like we really need to win. Next slide. Three-way race. At the time we did this in April, we're without precedent for leans, we're up 2 points. RFK Jr. was getting 10. Anybody see that last Siena poll? That Trump was up, no, behind, but we lost 61-38 in 2020 in New York. But the Siena poll last month had us trailing by only 10 points, 47-37. The interesting play was they didn't have RFK in the poll. If RFK gets his 45,000 or more signatures in New York State and makes the ballot, he's going to pull more from Biden than from us, and because it's his only way up, it's his only path up. But we'll see what he. I heard, by the way, I heard that the working families, that RFK was trying to get the working families, and Governor Hochul wouldn't let him have it. So I felt bad for about 2 seconds. Next slide. Now this is really important because this is all voters, 1,000 voters across the country. That's 66%. That's the number of voters who think politics played a role in the Trump indictments. They are not fooling anyone. And 47% say major role. Next slide, Bonnie. Doing a great job. I would have screwed this up. But 56% of all voters, 1,000 likely voters across the country, say Joe Biden played a role in the indictments of former President Trump. 39% major role. He's not fooling anybody. Although for the last month he's tried to avoid talking about it. But and now you're finding out that this guy Smith tampered with the evidence in the documents case, and then you're finding out that this Judge Marchand or whatever, you know, I don't know if anybody knows him, but by the way, his daughter is a serious, very serious Democrat operative and consultant, raising tens of millions of dollars for Joe Biden and others, and Schumer, et cetera. So 56% right now say he's playing a major role. And this is without the New York Times covering it, or without CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, or MSNBC confirming this. This is just people having to get this on their own in the internet from conservative media. The one thing we miss is Fred Dicker's radio show in New York. That was like, Fred's back there, so that's where I used to get the truth. Next slide. Agree or disagree? There's a double standard of justice where the FBI, IRS, where the Biden, Trump, you know, they prosecute Trump, but they, these are on our website if you want to read the whole word, but they prosecute Trump, but the Bidens go free. They agree. 54-36 is a double standard of justice. Next slide. Agree or disagree that the Biden's Justice Department should stop targeting Donald Trump, interfering with the upcoming election. Biden should let the voters decide who the next president should be. All voters, 56-35, they agree. Next slide. Since Donald Trump leads Joe Biden in many of the polls, do you think these investigation indictments by the Justice Department being done to stop him from running for president again? 50-40, they agree with that. And the next slide. President Trump has been indicted a total of 91. By the way, they threw 3 counts out. I got to change it this month. It's 88. But 88, he could go to jail for life. One of those counts, I think, had death penalty in it too. But 88% supporters of Joe Biden and his Justice Department. If convicted of these charges, you think that Joe Biden wants to stop President Trump from winning the election by putting him in jail? 53-34, they say yes. They are not fooling anybody. And that's why the polls you're seeing, whether it's Harvard, Harris, where they had Trump ahead by 4, RFK's in, they have us up by 7. The conviction doesn't change anything. Same on the CNN poll, because they had Biden losing to Trump by 6. If RFK was in it, we were winning by 9. Those were just a week ago. So they're not fooling anybody with this. And I think that's it, right? Is there any more slides after this? Nope, that's it. So with that, that's a run through of the political landscape right now nationally. And New York is a big part of it, precisely because these cases are happening in New York and Donald Trump is stuck here. The Biden campaign plan last year was about indictments. This year it's about convictions. Well, not that he has any, so he's trying to get his opponent convicted. But they're trying to pin us down in New York so that Trump can't go to the battleground states. He has to be in New York Monday, Tuesday. They give us Wednesday off, so we can't have a 3-day weekend, Thursday, Friday. Friday was a good pick by them because that way you can't have anyone who happens to be Orthodox Jewish, because they like Trump, moreover, on the jury because of religious observances. But that's a state of play where it is right now. Nationally, and in New York, Biden was a big help to us in 2022. We had a shot at winning for governor. Lee came close. Allison and Lee ran a great campaign. I got a feeling if it was a do-over today, we would win. In the meantime, we've got to get our members. They tinkered with redistricting after they jiggered the courts a little bit. But we got to get our members of Congress reelected. We got to get our state senators reelected. We got to get our assembly people reelected. Then we got to add some more to all those categories. So with that, if you have any questions or
I've got one.
Yes.
RFK, a Biden plant.
I've called him a Trojan horse because those of us from New York who know of him, I personally don't know him, but those of us from New York who know him know he's a liberal. You know he's against fossil fuels. You know he's soft on crime. And by the way, if you go to the Robert F. Kennedy Fund, which was after his father that Ethel and the family runs, all the advisors up there on it, you got Obama on it, you got Biden on it, you got Cheryl Hines, RFK's wife's on it, the whole Kennedy family's on it. He's the only one missing. And he shares all their positions, whether it's amnesty, whether it's soft on crime. So, this stuff that he's a maverick, it's not true. If you've been around New York State long enough, he's probably sued your town or your, he's against fracking. If you live in the southern tier, you can't do what they do in Pennsylvania because of RFK. So he's certainly lobbied Spitzer before and Andrew Cuomo so that we don't have fracking in New York, and all that money then goes to Pennsylvania instead. So I think he's a Trojan horse. Yes, sir.
Would you ask the president if he'd since he's stuck in New York City, how about campaigning a little bit with some of our candidates in New York City and southern New York, in Orange County, Rockland County, Westchester County, Putnam County? That would be great for him and for us.
I think he's going to do that. So particularly, he wants to hold. The court schedule is they have tied up with. He wants to hold a rally. I know he wants to do Madison Square Garden. I know he wants to do in the Bronx, and I know he wants to help people. He's got to be within range of the courts, so it's difficult. I don't control that, but he's trying.
He's talking about winning New York.
Yeah.
He said it just tightened. Is there even a chance that it tightens?
Sure. I think if RFK makes the ballot in New York, we have a really good shot at winning New York State. Because Trump support is the most intense. I mean, when you look at, Sienna's not my poll. In Siena, they have too many New York City votes in it, and they have too few Republicans in it. And they only have Trump down by 10. You put RFK in that, we'll be within single digits, we could win. Any other questions, or should I?
I think, yeah, but I'm coming here to give you a gift.
I get a gift. Thank you.
There you go, here's your gift. So we'll stand looking for a photographer and smile.
Here we go. Ready to get one more?
Thank you so much for coming in.
One last thing. I have one prediction for the fall. The early voting in New York, there's going to be very long lines. But the difference between now and 22 and 20, there's going to be Republicans on those lines. So you get out, you tell Republicans, vote absentee and vote early. Because if you know you want to vote for Trump, why are you waiting? So that's the prediction.
That's right.
That's the way we win New York. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work. Let's go win.